going on, everyone? This is Jason, and I'm going to do a week 2 Draftkings Millionaire Maker large GPP edition here. I'm going to go through everything. I did separate videos for all the positions for week 1. I don't have time, been busy, so for week 2, I'm just going to go through this really quick. And sorry to get this up so late. But here goes quarterbacks. So the chalk is probably going to be that Kansas City-Pittsburgh game. Roethlisberger, Mahomes, and there's going to be a lot of divided ownership in a lot of other different places. I think the one that's being forgot about is Deshaun Watson there, because he just destroyed Tennessee last year. Kind of had a letdown game last week. Some people might forget about him. I'm not going to forget about him in that spot. He could just go completely insane there. Another one I think that seems to be popping off is Garoppolo. He's going to have a little bit of ownership, though, against Detroit. I still think it's a good spot. Keenum, once again, it's 2 weeks in a row. He's in a good spot at home against the Raiders. If we're going cheap, can you bank on Darnold at home against the Dolphins? I don't know. He didn't really put up big numbers last week. That was mainly the defense. I think if I'm going quarterback, though, this week, my favorite play still is Deshaun Watson. If I'm going to running back now, there's a lot of obvious plays. Kamara and Gurley, really expensive, but they're at really great spots again. Melvin Gordon, a fantastic spot on the road, much cheaper than Gurley or Kamara, so that's nice to have. Connor, 6,700, still too cheap. Kind of missed out on him last week. Didn't play him as much as I should have. And McCaffrey, he's going to get a lot of usage, but he always just he gets vultured either by Newton or the fullback, and then they still got CJ back there. I'm just worried about vulturing at the end zone, so I think his upside is still limited, even though he does get a lot of work on the field. And Atlanta's terrible against pass-catching running backs. Dalvin Cook's interesting. I think he's going to get forgotten about in this range here. He's getting a lot of usage in Minnesota. It doesn't look like Latavius is stealing much of anything from him. Jay Ajayi with Darren Sproles out is interesting against Tampa Bay, although I think I'd rather go after the passing game with Aguilar or Ertz against Tampa Bay as opposed to the running game. Kareem Hunt is a very sneaky play in this big high-scoring game that everybody's going to play. This might be the least owned play, either him or Travis Kelce. But as far as running backs goes, this is a sneaky play right here. Chris Thompson, Washington, sneaky play. He's good. He's healthy. And Indianapolis can't stop anything. And I'm just not on Shady McCoy. They have no offensive line. The Bills are horrible. Kenyon Drake, I'm still a little skittish on that split between him and Gore, and they're on the road, and the Jets have a decent defense. TJ Yeldon against New England. He's going to start. He's going to get the volume, but he is priced up, and it is a pretty good defense. I'm really not excited about it. Adrian Peterson's in a pretty good spot against Indianapolis. This is one of the best spots you're going to get him all year. It's a nice play there to have Adrian Peterson. Lamar Miller is a nice spot against Tennessee, and Tevin Coleman without Devontae Freeman is going to get a lot of work for Atlanta. Let's see what other running backs here that kind of pop out. Dion Lewis, if they're playing with Blaine Gabbert, which it kind of looks like they are now, they're probably playing from behind against Houston, and so Dion Lewis enters the game, and he will factor in a little bit more than he would have before. So other ones that kind of stick out for me. Crowell had a good game last week. We'll see what the Jets do. You can never predict how they're going to use their running backs. Not really confident. James White may get a lot of work here. All the other running backs are hurt with New England. Burkhead's supposed to play too, but you may expect more work out of White, which fits Jacksonville's defense. was still like, the thing is Brady's going to be low owned. So if you want to do a Brady White Gronk stack or Brady White Hogan, those are going to be low owned. Although I don't know how that. I just think that game against Jacksonville is going to be kind of slow. Philip Lindsay, this kid is explosive. If he can just get one or two big carries, stick him to the house, he could pay off in a big way with no ownership. Watch out for that one. Freeman, on the other hand, he played pretty good last week too. He's more of a grinder. If it ends up going his direction, he could be the beneficiary here for Denver. But I expect one of those two to have a really good game. If not, just kind of split dead even like it was last week. So what else do we have down here? The other one I was looking at, Alfred Morris against Detroit. Cheap, 3,600 if you want to fit some of these big boys at the top. He's a great option to throw in there if you want to throw him and Kamara and Gurley. Or if you get to receiver and you want Antonio Brown in there or Michael Thomas, it's a good option. Antonio Brown's obvious. It's a smash spot at home. Terrible defense he's facing. It's going to be highly owned. If you want to kind of pivot away, Julio or DeAndre Hopkins is not a bad option. I think both of them are really good spots there. Tyreek Hill is always dangerous. Thielen and Diggs may get forgotten about here, but I expect one of them to have a good game. Just kind of hard right now to guess which one. Smith-Schuster, great spot here as well. Sort of a pivot, but he's going to have an ownership level as well with Antonio Brown. Jarvis Landry, without Gordon now, Cleveland. Landry's going to get a lot of work. He's definitely someone to look at. Marvin Jones Jr., sneaky play against San Francisco. Love it. Afternoon hammer. Go with Marvin Jones Jr. I think he can win some people some GPPs. Emmanuel Sanders, another good spot. He is 700 more than Demaryius Thomas. So if you want the savings, go down there. And if you want the savings on ownership as well, go to Demaryius. Aguilar, nice spot against the dreadful Tampa Bay defense. It's one to look at right there. Fitzgerald's going to get the targets, and I think the middle of the field slot, I think that's where you're going to have to get anything going on the Rams. So that's the spot I would look for right there. Stills, he's the guy in Miami, so I would expect another decent game out of him. I already talked about Demaryius. Chris Hogan, if they put him in the slot, Jacksonville stinks against wide receiver threes. So that's something to watch for. He is not going to have any ownership. So it's an interesting play if you want to go that way. Anybody else here? Crowder against Indianapolis. They're not going to stop him. So he's in a good spot. Kenny Golladay is a little bit too highly owned, in my opinion. I'd rather go with Golden Tate or Marvin Jones in that spot. And Nunwa is going to be highly owned. Funchess is going to be highly owned. Godwin's going to have some ownership, but they're all pretty good plays. Anybody down here? DeAndre Pettis is going to have some ownership. Ellington's going to have some ownership, possibly. Maybe not too much. But the other one, Geronimo Allison, where is he at? Right there. He's going to garner some ownership. And at 3,000, one play that I kind of like with the Gordon not in there anymore is Rashard Higgins. So he's bare minimum price. If you, again, we're looking for some value this week. We're trying to fit in all these big boys at the top, the Antonio Browns, Alvin Kamara, Todd Gurley, etc. So that's one option you can use to do that. Tight end, the standard names at the top. Ertz is probably in the best spot of all of them, although I don't know that with Nick Foles kind of playing crappy the way he has been lately. I don't know that you want to go there. Jordan Reed's $1,000 more than it was last week. Jack Doyle, so again, he's in a good spot. George Kittle, fantastic spot. Jared Cook, fantastic spot. Ben Watson, fantastic spot. Nobody's talking about Ben Watson. That's one to watch for. Jonnu Smith, pretty good spot. David Njoku, good spot. Ricky Seals-Jones, very good spot. Might be my favorite of the tight end plays this week. It's totally forgotten, and it's coming up on a lot of models that I'm looking at that numbers are going really high. And I think that's it as far as what I'm looking at for tight end. McDonald coming off the injury, yeah, I'm a little concerned. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, no, I'm good. There was one other tight end, the Tennessee tight end I already mentioned. There was another one that I was looking at, the Carolina backup, Ian Thomas, possibly. It's just not somewhere I'm going to go. I'd rather go with Ricky Seals-Jones there. Real cheap, $2,900. Defenses at the top, Rams and Chargers are kind of the obvious ones, but gosh, it's just so hard to pay up for defense this week. There's no value. Broncos, Saints, if you want to say the Saints game last week was mulligan. I don't know that it was. I'm a little cautious there. There's some mid-range and cheaper defenses that are nice. Vikings, if Rodgers doesn't play, maybe even if he does play and he's just, he's kind of standing back there, could be a good spot there. Jets, 2,500, real cheap. One of my favorites. And I think, for whatever reason, the Falcons defense is ranking high in a lot of models and stuff like that. So I don't know what to think of it yet, but it's one of those, why not? And then you got Jacksonville, 2,800. Awful cheap for that defense. 13 points last week against the Giants. The only thing is you just don't expect Brady to have some sort of meltdown game where he's going to have multiple interceptions. It just really doesn't happen. But that is a good defense, and they're real cheap. I'd still say my favorite play is probably the Jets, right there. And that's about all I got. Sorry again, the video was late. I've been busy this week and just going over some things. I really think that Marvin Jones is probably one of my favorite plays. And the Jets defense, Ricky Seals-Jones. And for running back, for a sleeper play, I would say Kareem Hunt and Dalvin Cook, along with the standard plays. And Lamar Miller, too. Lamar Miller is going to be sneaky. That's about it, everybody. Later.